Hello my friends, welcome back to my art table. I was just about to start doing one of my most favorite parts of any new painting process, and I thought that I'd bring you guys along for the ride. I'm going to narrow down my swatches and pick our limited color palette for this painting and analyze the colors in this painting and talk about mixes, why to make those choices, and I'm going to take you guys through it so that you can see a fun palette that we can use for this painting that I'm getting started on. So let's get started. I want to tell you first what I'm working on. So I'm making an illustration for an invitation for a client, and these are the flowers that they picked out and the native botanicals that exist in their ecosystem. And so this is the proof that I gave them, which is our composition that we're going to work from. I've sketched that out onto, I'm actually going to try hot press for this. I normally use cold press, but I've sketched it out today on some hot press paper. And that's not going to be a part of this video, but that's what's up next. After I choose this palette, I will start painting all these little flowers in. And these are some close-ups of each of the flowers so that we can really analyze and think about these colors. When I first start with any painting, this is, unless I'm doing one of my paintings for one of my teaching classes. In my classes, I use a limited palette of 12 colors, and for my local classes, and I always use those same 12 colors. And that's to make it easier for other people so that they don't have to chase all the colors down that I'm playing with or experimenting with or whatever. But myself in my own painting practice, I love to experiment and get new colors. I have quite a collection of pigments, as you can see over here. And I love to combine them in different ways and play with them and see what happens if I try this. And so I love to challenge myself to use new colors a lot of times in my paintings. And so that's part of what the fun is of this for me, is thinking about which family of colors we're going to use together. For all of my pigments, I have swatches, which I have made, which tell me a little bit about the characteristics of any given paint. It shows me how it responds to salt. I let it flow naturally down into water, so it shows me how well it moves. I just paint water in the bottom half and pigment on the top half, and then connect the dots, and I don't paint the bottom, and I just let it move on its own so I can see how it moves, or if it's prone to backwashing, or if it doesn't move as well. And then I also test a few other things on these swatches. I test to see how they lift. So like this quinacridone violet with core, it does not lift. This is a terrible lifter. But I've got some in here that are great lifters. The ultramarines tend to lift really well and are great lifters. So I test for that. This cobalt's a great lifter too. And I test how it responds to salt and movement and lifting. And those are some of the main kind of things, and what it looks like at a stronger density, and what it looks like as it tapers off into a more lighter pigment. After I'm done picking all these colors, what I'll do next is I'll pull my pans and I will fill up one of my little mint tins. And when I'm actually painting, I'll have a mint tin that I tie to this painting, and I'll keep it with this painting wherever I put it down, so that when I switch back and forth from painting to painting, I'll have a separate tin with its own palette for every painting. And that way I don't put these back away in here until I'm totally done with the painting and I'm done making changes or revisions, so that I know which colors to go back and make changes with. Cool, so let's look at some of these colors and talk about why I pulled these and why these might be some of the colors that I'm interested in using for this painting. So these are kind of in a rainbow order. So I'm going to start here with some of these cooler pinks. I don't have a lot of warm reds in this palette, and so to represent my reds, I'm going to pull some kind of a pink. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull all the colors that I'm going to choose from, and then we're going to narrow it down together which colors I'm going to enjoy painting this painting with at the end. And I'll choose a collection of them that I think will cover all my bases and also will be fun for me to play with. So here's my first thing I need to accommodate are some of these pinks that are in this lady slipper. So I want to make sure I accommodate kind of the warmest value here. And so that's over here. And again, we can do a lot of this with mixes too, but some of this is just, it's fun for me to do it this way and to use these pigments. So that's why I will do it this way. So I've got a bright pink here, a cooler purple here, and a warmer red back here. And so that's what I've pulled. I've pulled this is quinacridone red from Winsor & Newton. It's a little bit more of a texture than I would expect for most quinacridones, but there you have it. And it's a really pretty mix for this warm red back here. I'm leaning between either Winsor & Newton's quinacridone magenta or Core's quinacridone violet. This has a cooler, a bluer undertone here, and this is more of a vibrant pink color here. And I'll try to, as we come through, you know, bring these colors into more than one instance so that they are represented throughout each of the plants so that the whole thing feels cohesive. But that's one of the reasons why I want to do a limited palette for the whole piece, is because I won't do this for every painting, but in this instance, I'm combining five different references of botanicals into one painting, and I want them to all feel like the same painting. So I'm going to choose my, you know, anywhere between 6 to 9 colors and stick with that family for all the different plants. Okay, so those are some of the things I'm thinking about reds. I want to base my whole palette. I always try to base my whole palette off of a basic primary triad. So I always want to have like a red, a yellow, and a blue represented at the very least. And I need those mixes so that I can get neutral mixes, and I need to be able to pull some grays out. And to get grays, I need to be able to mix complements together. And I need gray at least here. Maybe some other spaces as well. But speaking of here, I pulled this Winsor & Newton Indian Yellow because I thought it was just a spot-on, bright and cheery, super saturated match to that bright, bright yellow. Now again, I'm really going to need to be careful to make sure I bring this yellow in other places so it's not isolated to that one spot. So I'll probably exaggerate these warm yellows in here, and I'll drop some in here. I'll probably drop some in on the warm edge of this leaf as well. But I'm probably pretty decided on this Indian Yellow. I really like this match, and I think that's really pretty. For my cool yellows, I have a yellow green, which is like this Da Vinci leaf green, which I would mix or do wet on wet blends. And functionally, the Holbein lemon yellow would do the same thing. So the function of each of these colors would be similar. And some places where I have these cool green colors are in the centers here of these little sweet blue flowers. I've got some cool highlights around the edges of this leaf, the bloodroot leaf. I've got some cool yellows in here. You know, the more I look at it, the more I feel already inclined to just drop this Holbein and just keep this leaf green. So, you know, as soon as I feel ready to go with the color, I'm going to move forward with it. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop this, I'm going to drop this Holbein lemon yellow, and I'm going to stick with this leaf green as my cold yellow. I know it's a green, but functionally it has a ton of yellow in it, and I'm going to use it like it's a yellow to mix with. And it will fit really pretty here into this the bottom part underneath the lemon yellow, this green center of this bloodroot flower. And it'll work really pretty with this Indian yellow. Although the Indian yellow watercolor, at least mine that I have, my Winsor Indian yellow, always feels a little bit opaque. So, but this will be a good spot for some opacity because I want it to sit on top of that. Okay, so now we're moving into natural greens that I'm going to use as a mixing base to base all my other greens off of. And I have a lot of green in this painting overall. There's going to be a ton of green. In addition to these, I also have these whole ferns that are going to be green as well. And this hooker's green is a really beautiful match for this bloodroot leaf. And we'll mix it with the Da Vinci leaf green to get some of those bright yellow highlights. So these are decided. These are kind of like undecided. I'm not sure what direction I'm going at. This is decided. And then, so here's another undecided point where I am. I have a lot of blue greens, especially over here in these trilliums. And I need to decide, like from a creative perspective, what would I like to do today? I can just mix blue, you know, honestly, I can just mix blue into here, and I'm going to have blue in my palette. But, you know, it's fun to play with some of these other kind of colors. And some of these colors are exceptionally beautiful. And I might end up keeping both of these because I really like them both in this context. And there's a ton of texture and patterning in these leaves that's just going to be really fun. And I can really see a lot of both of these colors represented in these leaves. So I'm not decided on that yet, but that's where this is coming from. However I bring in these two colors, it's going to have to make sure, I'm going to have to make sure that I replicate it in other places so that the painting feels like it all comes together. So I'll bring some of the ultramarine in here and some of it in here. I guess if I have to choose, I don't know. I'm not there yet. Okay, I like during this process, I would prefer to not rush myself because this is, this imagining part of pulling a palette for me is not just a time when I think about colors, but it's also when I imagine, how am I going to paint this? How are my colors going to come together? How are my values going to come together? And I really spend a lot of time studying my image and daydreaming a lot about the different little areas, noticing where I need to have resist, if I need to have resist. The only place I would really pull resist into any of these is in these white centers of these flowers. That's a small enough, plus a really small in my drawing. It's a small enough detail that that's going to need some resist. But so, yeah, so I like to really play with the colors. So I'm moving into blues now, and the place where my blues are most represented are going to be in mixing, circumstantially. I mean, if we bring this ultramarine in, we really don't need to do a lot of blue mixing in because it's blue enough. But I will need some blue to mix in here to cool this down, and I will need a blue to make a gray neutral here. I will need blues to cool down the purple flower parts on the trilliums. And I definitely need blues in these blue flowers. So here's the kind of colors that I'm in between. I have this ultramarine deep, which is kind of a spot-on color for these. It's a really pretty color. I have a standard Daniel Smith's French ultramarine, which is a little bit more blue than this, but again, so like, that's when I start to think about this in context of each other, right? So say I didn't use this, and I'll just flip that for now, and say I brought this ultramarine in instead because it's multifunctional. I could use it in a lot of different places. It would be able to cool down this nicely, and it would pair with this really beautifully to bring that relationship together. And would this be enough to warm this up into here? And I think the answer is yes. My alternate option over here would be these two, which is also a really pretty split, possibly more vibrant, more saturated feeling. So that gave me an opinion to do this rather than this, but I'm not sure that I'm going to go this way yet. So my other way that I'm considering going is with this color that I'm almost totally out of, which is Van Gogh's Ultramarine Deep. I'm going to need to replace that. I'm going to consider buying another brand. If you guys use Ultramarine Deep currently as a color, and if you have a favorite manufacturer, let me know in the comments. And also, if you just have a favorite color, I'd love to hear about it. Tell me what your favorite color is. I would love, I'm just a color lover. But so I only have the tiniest bit in this almost empty pan of ultramarine deep, but it's enough to get me through these flowers. And it's really a spot on color for this. So let's compare this to the quinacridone magenta with Winsor & Newton and the ultramarine deep. I mean, that just seems like a really pretty, that's probably the way to go. Having that bigger contrast between the warmer pink and the colder blue meets us with more vibrancy between the two. This is kind of a duller combination. This is kind of a more vibrant combination, a brighter combination. So that is telling me that I am ready now to eliminate this quinacridone violet. So I'm going to put that back away. Now I have narrowed it down a little bit more. And I'm also pretty much decided here that I definitely want to go with this ultramarine deep, which I just really love, over the French ultramarine, which is a bluer color. Now, I'm still considering keeping this cobalt, so hold on. Let's put this one away. So I still have this cobalt blue. I've got these really pretty, very blue shadows in here. And I think I want to keep that, but I also don't want to go too crazy with having too many colors. I really want to be economical with my palette and have the least amount of colors that I possibly can. Sometimes these kind of blue greens mixed with a pink will make a really pretty purple color. And also some of this, when it's full density, is actually pretty blue. So I do think that this is going to be redundant, and we can let this go as well. It's not necessary. I do a lot of mixing when I paint. So, you know, I want to get us down to about 6 colors, and I'm going to do a lot of mixing as I paint this. So the last kind of area that I want to make sure that I accommodate is this maroon situation. I have these beautiful trillium flowers, and I also have these stems with these purple stems and these purple leaves. I'm going to use a similar paint for this and this to bring them together, and I'm also going to reach into my shadows with that same color too, so that it all ties together. I have this color that I don't use that often. It's very similar to mineral violet, which I use a lot. But this is Daniel Smith's Rose of Ultramarine, which is this pretty warm, earthy. I just really like this raisiny kind of color. I hate raisins, but I love this raisiny color. I'm going to use this for that. And when I need to deepen it, I'm going to mix it with this turquoise color, the ultramarine turquoise. I've got a lot of ultramarines going on today. I've got the Rose of Ultramarine, the ultramarine deep, and the ultramarine turquoise. So we're going to have a really granulated painting, which should be fun and really pretty. And I've got some colors that have movement and color shifts in them. This deep ultramarine has some color shift in it. The Rose of Ultramarine definitely has color shift in it. And this turquoise also has a ton of color shift in it. So that's going to be pretty and give us some magical watercolors. And the last question is just, well, it's not the last question, but the last question for now is, do I also need this dioxazine purple to be able to accommodate the purple shifts in these flowers? But I think after holding the ultramarine deep and the quinacridone magenta together over these flowers, I can say I do not. This is enough to be able to give me those pretty purples. So I'm going to let the dioxazine purple go as well. All right, so now let's see where we are and how many more to call back. I know that I definitely want this, this, and this. This is my triad, my primary triad that I'm definitely working with today. So let's set this up from that angle. I've got a primary triad that I'm working with. I really don't want to let any of these colors go. It's going to be my secondary yellow. I'm going to have 2 greens. And you know, there's a lot of green in this, so if I go with 3 greens, like, it's not the end of the world, but is the Viridian and the ultramarine turquoise redundant? And the answer is yes, they are redundant.
That's so pretty.
I'm going to keep them both in because I can. It's my painting. And I just feel like it. So I just think they're both so pretty. So we'll see if I end up using one more than the other or how it works. But my instinct says to use them both. So I will. And it's looking like we're going to end up with an 8. I'm kind of a symmetrical person. I'm not going to be able to emotionally leave this kind of a hole in my palette. I'm going to keep this rose of ultramarine, and I'm going to let this quinacridone red go. And I'm going to work in here just with whatever I end up with, right? So I'll mix maybe quinacridone and Indian yellow together to get some warmth up in here, maybe rose of ultramarine. You know, one of the benefits of working with a condensed palette like this is that I'm not going to try to match every color exactly in my references. And instead, I'm going to bring the painting together and have it be a cohesive painting that represents all these beautiful early spring ephemerals, which is going to be really fun to paint, and I'm excited. So I'm probably not going to make a video of that, but if you want to see how it turns out, follow my Instagram and send my videos some love, and I hope to see you again sometime. Have a nice day.